아들이야. 아주 아다나 샵에 라면에 주르기. 최네. 마다 다나 샵에 만드는 샵. 디고리아 디시슈아이. 나머지 이제 다다 문에 디스 되는 가면 디스 되는 인티지는 시작하면.
And so now I will continue with the teachings on Guru Yoga that we started this morning. First, I will read a little bit of the text.
아들이야. 네 것서 고법니 지르상아도 지티와 그 조름기 당와 강한 거면 라면 치름랑도 체그 질러면 슈바도 남샤마 규름이게 도질러면 승리도 되마실라 로마 탐지도 되마시 무기니 후르조나 탑시에미게 초디몽으로 토버송 라면 무기 메신지 이담 규리시 인이로 체도 줘 초강으로 자완의 미토 휴무공으로라 치르노루 원대서 마보실라 레드 차그 대다장가를 민주 조선 루발라 까지침 루게베 람 미사바이 무기 친지발로바시 규레 깨나 람지 기세 방대 초튜몬담지 셀라 떠바베 주베 람 사면내줄 람 사마라면내줄 셰베 균젠테 임바도.
There are some points to be understood here. Whatever instruction you meditate on, be it of the secret mantra Vajrayana in general or the completion phase in particular, you must make the Guru's blessings the path. The authentic path will not arise in your being until you have received the blessings. It is said that if students with Samaya have heartfelt donation for an authentic Vajra master, they will achieve the supreme and ordinary siddhis even without any other methods. Once you lack your devotion for your Guru, though, you might finish all the approaches and accomplishments of the yadams of the 4 classes of tantras, but you will never attain supreme siddhi. You will also have to lower your expectations for many of the ordinary siddhis, such as long life, attracting wealth, and charisma. Some of them you will not accomplish, and others you might accomplish to some degree, but only with great difficulty, so that path is not profound. But if unmistaken devotion does arise in your being, it will dispel obstacles to the path, enhance your practice, and accomplish all supreme and ordinary siddhis without depending upon anything else. This is the reason why this practice is called the profound path of Guru Yoga.
융하게 제바 마dom바 란데 제바는 교회체 방구 개버도 저롱 차게 나다 레소 조름 사면에는 교회배체도 세진 엄디 셀라메베 당와 예바게 셀 상하기 다주 사무 첨도 게르 제번 종요도 주 나와 토하게 세 군조순기 제다 놀라 신도 세 요규다 추주체 규범메베 왕다 맹아체 창的니족이 대화라가 람친지 말로 되미시베 최다 미디마라수 식된베 로벤이 뒤기 실업이인베 나복군도 빵 로마라 대바메바 탐지 미송바 산로당 어디쳐 로나망와서라 림기 로쮸스로나마도 통원인의 대사버미자 라메치니 누유군이 가실송자 대바다 탐지 마냠바 니주 팁시 라렌셰바 최게라 하장 미셴바 셴라 시규체리 중생 냠소랑바시다 로마라 대바댄시 탐지 송류바 디베 초보다 민조바시 마타야 그랬어.
For both master and disciple, lacking compassion, being quick to anger, being hateful, holding grudges, and being inflated with pride or strongly attached to wealth and family, lacking in verbal and physical self-control, and praising themselves are great faults that must be given up. In particular, there are masters who teach and explain the practices of the channels, winds, mudras, mantras, the collections of activity, or the essential points of the profound perfection stage to crowds of ordinary people. They claim to possess oral instructions others lack, and then review the profound view and conduct of secret mantra to the public. Their conduct is polluted. They prattle on about high views. They crave the wealth and belongings of the three jewels intensely. They are deceitful and totally immoral, giving empowerments and instructions without a lineage and reveling in the pleasures of alcohol and sex. Not knowing how to teach the unmistaken path, they fabricate teachings that contradict the Dharma. Such masters have been blessed by demons, so you must avoid them at all costs. A master should not make a profound connection in the beginning with students who lack faith. Do not keep samaya, flatter new acquaintances, have too many ideas, and so forth, unless it seems possible to gradually improve their minds. The characteristics of a guru are explained at length in the sutras and tantras. At the very least, their faith in samaya should be unimpaired. They should have completed the approach and accomplishment practices and know the rituals. They should not cling strongly to the 8 worldly concerns, and they should have practiced to some degree the Dharma they explain to others. At the very least, students should have stable faith, be able to maintain samaya, and not associate with negative companions.
不要让你吃一大把天，完全没许不空的印的，完全的这些呢，旁把西藏话是印的，每个月都瞧嘛到天老看。天老看面大结束。OK， 天老看面大结束，下面用的这些几种推吧啦。 라마르 민지는 지지지좀 퇴발랑 가데 라마르 민지는 치 겨와야라 니메시제는 겨와주 제송.
The examination of the characteristics of master and student should precede empowerments or Dharma teachings. Once a connection has been made through an empowerment or Dharma teaching, even if the guru has committed all 4 defeats, they are solely worthy of devotion. It is wrong to lose faith, criticize, scrutinize them, and so forth. As it is said, if you hear but a single verse yet don't consider him a guru, reborn a dog 100 times, you'll then be born untouchable.
나랑 셋. 라마양 교육과 연대 군조는 교환의 미니 개시를 삼년씩이야 라나마다나 연대를 교도 통한데 좀 된데를 해진기 교도 통해서 신이지 중하다다 팀상의 교육 페이지를 랭에 사비 개념 바시 교육인게 연대도 통 연대지 교도 통 최대 준비 연대 오고 또 나지 매겨 기부 담을 통해서 예배 다지 지신 시장가 개발 차게 신별함 되발라 고프로를 무칸에 차차를 대비배시 라마 떠버된 것이 매나 로메규를 떡버터도 깨민 대나 냠에 타부 제 dwing인 상세바 제거상 보소를 유비롱 톱친지 대남 대바 수제라 사벨라마르 손에 쏘았다면 지름 주바 세기 세다 라바르 냠에 타부 야외 차게 첨부 빼와라 롱기 땜바 임베 차신라 메바 제세 제가 못 발라 로데 차와 내 첸도 대야 랑게 자야라마 대다 예매도 공그 얍세더비 존이 질럭이 규바톰니 대라 자야라마로 송나 대코네 쪽에 따지게 무그 그 유시나를 되게 무그의 대가 전세 담지 롱신기 계전 또버 된기 이시 지기지라 표현에 신규 제설롬니바 사다인비 치르.
In these times, you will not find a guru who has abandoned all faults and perfected all qualities. Were it even possible to find 1 or 2, with our impure perception we would see their good qualities as faults, as has happened many times, such as when Devadatta saw faults in the Bhagavan Buddha. These days, most people are only predisposed to accumulate negative karma, so they see faults as qualities and qualities as faults. Or they see those who inwardly lack even a single one of the dharmic qualities that they exhibit outwardly as being holy. Thus it is hard to even know how to examine anyone. especially in teaching the path of Mahamudra. Just as the designs on a mold are reproduced on the clay, the disciple cannot develop ultimate realization in their being without a guru who has realization. Therefore, once you receive a transmission passed down from Peerless Gampopa, Dusum Kempa, Shang Tsalpa, Gutsampa, and so forth, if you take the one from whom you have the greatest faith as your root guru and supplicate them, they have promised you will receive their blessings. In particular, the Buddha prophesied that the Peerless Gampopa would propagate the teachings of Mahamudra, so all those who have longing for Mahamudra should place their trust in Lord Gampopa. This is a crucial point. You should also meditate on your root guru as inseparable from him. Once you have received the lineage of blessings from someone such as the Karmapa or his Hartsons, considering him your root guru is sufficient on its own. Further examination is unnecessary. It is not necessary to place your hopes on any other oral lineage. All those who have preceded the guru were great beings who have been prophesied and who passed down realization, the ultimate wisdom, from one to the next. So he is definitely able to bless others' mind streams.
我呀，他当然说别许不能写的，他这里呀，当不得领也写写去学糊涂，写写的还是学糊涂是哪？这的，我这不是，我这不是下去来那个那边呢就是天堂，的呢，他的的，我当时可是推西那边呢就，我到地里呀。 开发这些糊涂，第开发这嘛些呢，第是开那种，我不是我出主意是的，我不要主意是的，这是第开发这属于。
Now, as I mentioned this morning, there is something that I do need to explain. And what I need to explain is that there is a difference between the Guru Yoga that we practice when we do the 400,000 preliminaries and the 4-session Guru Yoga. And I think if I don't explain this confusion, then a lot of you will get confused.
다들 지단기 라면은 좀 임바 찍버래 이렇게 봐요 말해 이내야 지 니가 가장 홍도 쉬버는 시 다나 쇼베 쉬버는 신기 감산 더비저 차선배 이미나 라면은 좀 망보여 뒤뒤 망보여 이내야 다지 라면은 좀 대삼세가 나온 게배 扎持续生产长度，做路的开的资料是呢，推西那边呢就这资料。
Of course, they're the same in being Guru Yoga. But as I mentioned this morning, within our Karma Kamsan tradition, there are many different Guru Yogas, some long and some short. But among all of the Guru Yoga practices, the most fundamental or the primary one is the 4-session Guru Yoga.
라멘 낸저디 냠내 차디 인지미지 저 튠시 라멘 낸저를 냠내 치고 예스제 장도 시기 어마래 나 공도 쉬버는 신기 라멘 낸저 될라야 지 가수에 이나야 지 까마깜상의 제수 주버지미나 튠시 라멘 낸저 냠내 차나 야부여라스 다디 경안소로 오드스는 장도 왜 저런 저지 니왜 말했지 니 제왜 말했지 경안소리야 참조를 붙이게 하래 마도베 타지 튠실라면은 주냠슬레 오레스고 말에 당이 다나쇼베 슈베는 신기 아주들이 왕숑게 나로라야 그 유지보 말에도 주균라면은 배열에 수수수기 로기 엔다 라면nen조 안다 디기디 냠레치아나 디 먼저버지게요 말에
I will speak about the reasons why the four-session Guru Yoga is superior when I give the instructions on it in the coming days. So I will not speak about that much now. The main point is that now that you've had the empowerment of Chakrasamvara, there are many people who might think or who say that, oh, you absolutely have to practice the four-session Guru Yoga. What I've actually mean, though, is that within the Karma Kamsang, the four-session Guru Yoga is very good. It's like I'm introducing it to you as a practice that deserves to be done, as one that is worthy of being done. But that doesn't mean that you absolutely have to do just that practice. As I mentioned this morning, there are many people here they're not just Kajus here, there are people from other lineages who, if they practice the Guru Yogas from your own lineage, there is nothing wrong with that.
이나야 간달라면은 저 기듀 컨트리네자 튠실라면은 저 이나자 튠실라면은 저 마인베기 라면은 저 이나자 간달 직 냠레 소고다 라면은 저 냠레 소고다 뒤 개심으로스 가르사나 왕 가자 쉬변한 시가 왕 토바 좀 미변바 뒤지 구시 사변 섬으로 귤에 샤샤바디 안 다고 베나 사변지 떡사회 제려야 델려야 안 다고 잡네 뒤 깨신 거고 마다 더 사변 떡서 요샤나 사변 루루로 봐 되는 신체네 안 다가는 냠린 소레스 안데 냠린 소야나 다 라면내 주지 이담기 지단기 이담기 윤결망부 요아레디 텔레 라면내 주르디 엔다지 가르소레 뉴체바스난다도 디나로라 용조 냠린 용조 산데베 소치 도시 인비 인두산에 라면내 주 냠린 차나 야거레스 이나 기듀 가르체마지 수수 다지야레 튠실 라면내 주 냠르스 레마네 수수 다지야레 이나 간다레 라면내 주 진 냠레 제고레 사디 견과도 계속 시라레스
But whatever Guru Yoga practice you do, no matter how long or short it is, whether it's the four-session Guru or not, you need to make one Guru Yoga practice into your practice. It is important that you do this. And the reason is, as I said, merely taking the empowerment is not enough. That doesn't help. The seeds of the four kayas have been planted within your being, and now that they've been planted within your being, you have to cultivate them. You have to let them grow. You have to take care of them. If you don't, and you just instead throw them aside or cast them away, then then they will rot. And so you have to make some Guru Yoga into your practice. Of course, there are many different Guru Yogas. There are many different Yidam deity practices, but Guru Yoga practices contain all of the deities. They are more encompassing than other practices, and so for that reason, it is best to do the practice of a Guru Yoga. Whether it's a long Guru Yoga or a short Guru Yoga is up to you. Whether you practice the four-session Guru Yoga or not is up to you, but you do need to make a Guru Yoga into your practice.
다데레 다데기 세셰르지 디 세셰 이미기자르데 세로 친예메 하고민도 트레인주산에 이나다 세로 친예베라 와요.
So that is the explanation, the clarification. Whether it actually clarified anything, I don't know, but the hope is that it has.
다데이젤이야 여기 다 급스 바바데 아주 가셔야 돼요 그랬잖아. 데다디 데네 녀든 주민 나는 손대야. 당 아주 가셔야 당 녀든 주민 말은 저대. 감상이다 지금 원조 당배급이야. 원조 난기 라면에 주티 티치요래.
But now on this occasion, what we are discussing is the Guru Yoga that is taught in the Torch of True Meaning. This is the Guru Yoga that we practice when we do the foundation or the preliminary practices in the Karma Kamsang.
다 되게 미치 나다 제래야 미버체베 qabla kandis chawras la yimina ane range jiwo am dungi nangpa las da sedu zane range jiwu tegi dungi nangpa las ade jiwo am dungi nangpa dangma jin song da ine ya nan yu cha she le ya jiwu tegi dungi nangpa las 샤 셰추 초대바 셰르니를 초대바 데네지 공부 주택이 누기 낭발라스 생기 계획이 되고 무시 치 나도 지 손으로 생기 계획 라 생기 치 아니 초실에 니르니르 제일 산나 생기 계획이 되고 데네지 치지요 제 안디가야 아니 그랬어 지가주에 그 그신 데데 다제 그야드니 예비제 第一点是白马的大外点了，真的那么多是强，咱们那么天天多是强给，那把我们吃路线，真的是结果的是。
Now for the instructions on the visualization, well, what do you visualize? Well, first of all, it says here, it says here, above your head or in the sky in front of you. So what this actually means is that in the sky directly in front of your head. It's phrased here as if you're given a choice, but the practice is that the normal practice is that you visualize the Guru in front of yourselves, in the sky in front of yourselves, facing you. And there is a jeweled throne supported by 8 snow lions. So 8 snow lions means that there are 2 snow lions on each side for a total of 8 lions. And it is covered with fine divine fabrics. So this is brocades and silks, divine silks and brocades. On top of that is a lotus and a moon, and on top of that is your Guru in the form of Vajradhara. In your essence, your root Guru in the form of Vajradhara.
그래라고요. 다남규 데다디 티가 나로래야. 대 송도와. 대드비가 다지 도지산데 뭐시 인규 제나스다. 전다도도디. 폐기 이제 인규 제나 자야라 말레스. 이나야디 수업다디 남규기 알아준 제대야 자야라 말다 명미체. 디 수업다디 수수기배 르기 디 주와 당체. somdadi kandaji suesha resa doji shanga namba ji suesha resa namba ji takada sange ga namba mi namba mai sange ga namba dili kong resa.
What it usually says in the instructions is that the essence, it's Vajradhara, but the essence, and that means what he really is, to say it colloquial, what he really is your root Lama. He really is your root Lama, but in shape, that is, he's not the shape of the root Guru whom you normally see. Instead, he changes shape. He changes his shape, and he appears in the form of Vajradhara, or in the form of the Buddha, not in the form of a human.
Kamdilia Lama Sang di Sangi Namba Gongwa Lama Sangi Sube Dusheva Lama Sangi in the Chensia and Namjungi Lame Nam Kui Nabata Mindrawa Sangi Namba Gongwadi Lama Sangi in Lama Sangi in Dusheva Lama Sangi in the Tayak Lama Sangi Skobi.
Now, the reason why here we visualize our guru in the form of a Buddha is to show that we need to think of our guru as being a Buddha, to remember that our guru is a Buddha. So we don't visualize our gurus in the ordinary form, but we visualize the gurus in the form of a Buddha. And this is so that we conceive of our guru as being a Buddha, so that we remember that our guru is a Buddha.
당원은 상계의 세계에 건드리지 않았어. 라마 상계 임바 공부를 쓰기도 다 마신의 상계의 세계에 건드리지 않았어. 기지 저거 봐. 그래서나 상계의 세계에 내가 건드리 하마오나 아니 라마 상계에서 곰싱 말아.
But then the question is, well, what's a Buddha? We have to visualize our guru as a Buddha, but what's a Buddha? If we don't know what a Buddha is to begin with, then how can we visualize our guru as one?
다 상계에서 미망부지기 삼련나로 상계라도 일단 랍상 아주 셈나 가르샤리 모르잖아. 남경아서 상계 군들 배나 잡로들이야 덴베 군이 나니여야 돼봐. 언디는 시정 아주기 삼련나들이 샤 상계에서도 느리지 오래 삼사로지 아주 삼련나 샤려.
So when we say Buddha, what most people think, they think of Buddha, it looks like the statues or the depictions, like a statue or an image of the Buddha, such as the one behind the throne. And so when we say a Buddha, people think, that's what a Buddha is like.
아주 다다 점빌리니야 상기 군의 인슈에 변하지 뒤럽 당번이바 진대급이야 쇠샤베 상기 군들인데 제하여래. 이나야 상계 준비인데 거두 취해버렸잖아. 진류응원기 다 뒤럽 나봤을 텐데 충분했어.
The oldest statues of the Buddha that we can find in this world are from the 1st or 2nd centuries of the Common Era. But the time when the Buddha was actually present in the world was actually during the 5th century before the Common Era.
다당 아란수기 제야에 대비 군르니슈 게다 상계 은혜 취하고 두즈버룰이야 농업자 투기기 해봐 세네다도 개발 농업자 투기 받아요 그랬어.
And so the gap between the oldest statue that we have and the time when the Buddha was actually in the world, there's actually a gap of 560 years, or an intervening period, a gap of 500 or 600 years.
제당 운해전의 상계의 컨트지 유명한데 다 야자 자탐바 지시해야 돼. 가라고 싶지 않아.
So actually, it's really difficult to say for 100% certainty what the Buddha was really like.
이나야 imagination 센터도 인지게래야. 나저기 최바 체외입니다. 간드지에서나 상계 배나 급지두산에 상계에서디 도시대는 와데 아랍자도 유에데스 도시대 데려야 상계 그래서 다당 아란소 가주에 계시 아주 급지두 유에나 아주 대좀 되면 밑에 상을 급지두 유에나 급지두 도시대는 유에나 안 퍼지 대 상계 원시에 갈라가버려.
But we can sort of use our imagination and try to guess what it was like. For example, the Buddha was here in Bodh Gaya. And if we all were in Bodh Gaya at the time that the Buddha was here as well, it actually would be difficult for us to recognize the Buddha.
이 가르에서나 중시야. 중디 경주 망부지 경유기래요. 상기 주나라 자는 점리야. 가와제네 로투 가와제네. 다 신동지 군자리야. 가와제네 슈르와. 가와제네 슈르산에 구수의 상만을 봐 신능시 차. 간부 쉬차. 고배난 가서 깜부 쉬우 차지 아니 왜 행동은 시 차지 대두산에 점시 보모 다 리기에서 말하다 리기에 쇼핑 기지 여러 쇼 레서 가시 쇼 말아 우투리서 킬 퓨버리서 와래 간다 가르 퓨에네 메네 다디 저바 접되는 초스금 너가 쇼핑한 데도 다 가다 킬 퓨에나 데도 다디 저바 접는 시라 초스금 간다 가르 퓨에네 메네 대두산에 배제난 가르 지여스는 싱글할라 쇼 퓨이스 가르에서나 상계의 행동지 군주라 행동지가 종래 예배체 아니 로망부시 대쇼 아니 수부대 신기 소리 차서 제가 고추 삼면은 네 싱글라이레 레 섬사로 지 테임 싱글라 다 싱글 내딩이 라도 지다 장송도 지 레 섬사로 좀마다 미래 섬사로 시라이서 미래 섬사로 지 시라지 배 수부대 껴보시지 과 가르쳐드린 인자 다 뒤균전되네 아 급티주산에 점심 보면 리게메 오토뷰들이 제백걸이야 뭐랑 그 통나로 내쇼
There's actually a story about this, a story that many of you probably know. When the Buddha spent 6 years practicing austerities on the banks of the Niranjana River, he sat at the base of a tree, and as he sat there, actually his body also started to become like a tree. He became so emaciated from not eating food that he became so thin and emaciated that he started to look more like a tree. It's like he withered and was looking like a tree. So there was a Brahmin girl who came, a Brahmin girl named Lekyema, and she offered the Buddha, some people say it was curd, some people would say it was kheer, said it was cooked kheer. There's no need to really argue about what it really was, whether it was yogurt, whether it was kheer, doesn't really matter. But at that point, what it says in the text is that she thought she was making an offering to a tree spirit. And the reason for this is that the Buddha was sitting at the base of a tree. He spent many years sitting at the base of the tree, and his body even began to look like the tree. And so everyone assumed, oh, he's a tree spirit. Or they thought he was a sage or a tree spirit. They didn't think that he was human because he was so emaciated. And so when this Brahmin girl, Lekyema, offered him, that's what she saw him as.
아니 상계 주산에 토랑 엄버서 상계라로 토랑 아 주스 숨버시버도 맨로 토랑 엄버서 상계래 주산 도시된데 미망고요 말해 퍼지미 유기 말해 행동지 정준주신사 딱 가는 행동지로 봐 행동지의 정도 다 바디는 니지 배념버샤 잠팅딩 아상계소 마다 아상계를 아주 상마 저디chen 아 상계도 라바담 땡이지 요마 와 다 상계 손시 라바답 쇼바 답딩이지 요마 잠팅딩 알 나간다 지 내단데 하장기 가수래 균딩기 내단스는 단도 다지 배 미세 메이바 지 르르지긴 안에 잠팅딩도 지긴 안올래 상계소로 유지도 쉬어로 봐
Then when the Buddha awoke to enlightenment, he awoke at dawn. It was 3 or 4 a.m. probably. And at that point, he was probably alone. There probably wasn't anyone else there. He was sitting at the base of the tree. Now we call it the Bodhi tree. But there's one person sitting there. It was probably very quiet, very serene. It's not like there was a group of people waiting for the Buddha to awaken, and when he awoke to Buddhahood, that they all clapped their hands and applauded. It wasn't like that. There was no group of people who were clapping and applauding for when the Buddha awoke. Instead, he was sitting in the quiet, in peaceful, relaxing in this serene and peaceful atmosphere.
제가 신동산 밑에 있는 게 장알 칸데 와래. 제당 아주를 지다다 상계 와 도시된 다다 예외 갑지도 상아주 예외 왕도 따나 파지 상계 이번 것이 약간 가버려.
So in India, there are a lot of people who sit by the bases of trees, and so it would have been difficult, if we had been there at that time, it would have been difficult for us to recognize that he was a Buddha.
제당 참정아주 다다 아주 상계 시에서 배 상계사도 배 섬김이 겨버 시에시 주사네 딱 간삼 손주사 상계의 효중도 소로 찬 다지 섬김이 겨버 레스 파트 시부지 시에샤라 마도 오늘 전에기 소수기 상계래야 오늘 전에가 다지 소화를지 섬기 민제버지 깨자를 셔다 줘야지 나서 저 소화래야 가 알아하고도 와
So when we talk about the Buddhas, we always talk about the Buddha as being some sort of incredible, inconceivable being, and it begins to sound more like a myth. So that actually we don't really have this experience or this feeling of what the Buddha was like. We spend so much time thinking about the Buddha as being inconceivable that it's difficult to get any feeling for him.
Today we can say Dileya Lama Sange Skomsuadi Lama Tsini the Debachina Sange Dagara Tatella Sange Dagara rest Taji Sange Saji Azu Sabanansi Debe Jigi Be Lodung Soroji Tindeji Yakala Karshade Lodung Sor the Sheshadi Tindeji Yuanamena Hakwayama 다나시 ngaran sugi kebalaya sangi unsu jebe inaya deden mato jigi lama tsendenji jeya gyeshini tsendenji mato ta tela labaji jeya ji kala khabsharwa jesa gyeshini tsenden khora lama ru chadi gore jesa di junzel dene tan donaji sangi da lama sadi endevorti ta tushi ji sangi singi shibuji 이게 여기 lama sadi phaji 진짜면이지 라마다 상계 버루를 번져버를 튀세 간다 든지지 토안에 즉 아주 상계라 타 진인 줄 알지다 다는 신기 신이들 라마텔라 타 진인 줄 알지 진짜기 그바 그시 토안에 라마 상계 수검사디 든지지입니다
So for this reason, when we say that we need to visual or that we need to meditate upon our guru as being a Buddha, if the guru is an authentic, qualified guru, then in actuality he is a Buddha. The Buddha, if we think of the Buddha as someone like as being taught in a myth, someone we would never know whether or not there are Buddhas or not. We don't have the fortune at that time. We wouldn't have the fortune to see such a Buddha. But if there is a qualified guru, a qualified spiritual master, then there's no difference between that. A qualified spiritual master actually becomes our guru. And so when we think of the qualified spiritual master in that way, actually then there's a relationship between the guru and the Buddha. There's a connection between the guru and the Buddha. It's not as if the guru is over on one side and the Buddha is over on the other side. There's a connection in between the two of them. And so when we think in this way, then we begin to feel closer to the Buddha. We begin to feel closer to the qualified guru. And so this, I think, is the reason why we need to meditate upon the guru as being a Buddha.
다르지. 다네 라마 상기 가르에 도시 상에 남아서 들으시오. 검. 다 디기 가르에 타고르도 띵도 저기 규벨라마 디서 도지 상에 손데 마 규벨라마 디서 아니 토지기 수도 저기 강을 저기 해봐 저기 되네시제 토지도 수비 매바체
And so you visualize your guru in the form of Vajradhara. And then above him, you visualize all of the lineage gurus. You visualize them in a column, one above the other.
다디 타고르도 지공당 죽바당 악롱라 사베기 에너지 거규 지 라마 현당 다는 신 조진 유베 라마 추주 유베 라마 람지 유베 라마 시제 유베 라마 로종 유베 라마 가담 유베 라마 다디 상물로 딘티보다를 쇼여바다 내지 고마르샤.
And surrounding them, you imagine that there are all of the Kagyu gurus of other Kagyu lineages, of the Drikung, Drukpa, Tsalpa, Talkung, and so forth. You also visualize that there are all of the gurus of the Dzogchen lineage, of the lineages of 6 yogas, of the path and its result, of pacification, chun, mind training, and so forth. You imagine that they all gather like clouds. And you also need to imagine that they are surrounded by all the gatherings of Yidams, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Heroes, Dakinis, Dharma protectors, and guardians.
Lama Doji Shanti la Jishu Gunzo Nushi Jena Beta, Lama Doji Shanti, and Idam Gundu, Lama Gundu, Idam Gundu, Chogyong Gundu, Dadreji, Sabe Mabachar, Tinijimata. Take Mabachana Pajitri.
Now, if you're unable to visualize that many figures, then what should you do? Well, then you should think that your guru, Vajradhara, that he is the one figure in whom all of these beings are complete. Vajradhara is the embodiment of all the gurus. He's the embodiment of all the yidams. He's the embodiment of all the dharma protectors. And thinking of him in this way, I think, is fine. Still got a half hour to speak, but we're all falling asleep.
Time to sleep. You have plenty of time to sleep. Digablia Lama di Kunjo Kudus, Mabachadi, Keshu Shushi Chadi useless.
Here it's very important to think that the Lama is the embodiment of all the jewels.
태양 최지 주거군이베 송지어래 딩에 된다디 시에나 섬차에서
There's a saying of Drukpa Kunle's that I thought I would explain the meaning.
공개 가르침으로서나 딩상 미카시지기 르녜게 롱찬 르녜사데 상원두베게 르먹아사죠바 조림 르녜게 롱찬에 가르시에도스나 Cheba Tamji Yongban, Lama Cheba Sambarcha, Sungyores Lam Di Lung Chane, Kashurada, Kajumaju Chedidos.
And what Drupal Kunlek said, quoting the the 5 stages of the Guhya Samaja, he said, where it says that give up all offerings and offer only to the Guru, he says that many people then misunderstand this and act in all sorts of different ways.
Cheba Tamji Yongban, Lama Cheba Sambarcha Sade, Sigdipa, Tigurchena, Karsore, Pegaton, Bakisiana, Cheba Sindatam, Hashinda, Cheba Song, Cheba Piadapa, usuals. Lama Jibula Cheba Puis, Lama Jibula Cheba Pina. Chebashinda Pugumares, Lashinda Cheba Pugumares, said 60 Dabe, Tegarba, Pegaton, Jurushana, the Nidishir.
So if we if we talk about the meaning of this colloquial, this saying, it sounds like it's saying that you don't need to make any offerings to any other yidams or any other deities. You give up making offerings to them and only make offerings to the Guru. You don't need to make other offerings to other gurus. This is what it sounds like if we look at the words directly.
다 미카시지기 디고와 만회미체 전당 원내에 하마워체 공방 원내에 하마워체 다 가르쳐 디도스나 이담 세두스나 콜로도만라고다 게바도제라고다 마하마얀라고 된제기 라 차망부 유에된게 차세망부 유에된게 운동원부 인된게 셰망부 유에된게 에너지 가라야 돼. 도주 제여야 된게 샤이칸 여야 된게 다 되죠. 이담레 삼. 되죠 봐요. 안 되죠. 저거 피하려면 들라마레면 네 이담레 도스. 되죠 봐요. 다 되네. 점바 샤게토 봐. 상계실사는 점바 샤게토 봐. 구도 세버레 된게 울주도 여야 된게. 다 되죠. 상계래. 슬람네. 안 되죠 봐요.
So sometimes people who don't understand the actual meaning of this, when they hear these words, what they think is, a Yidam deity, that's something like Chakrasamvada or Hevajra or Mahamaya, some deity with many hands, with many different implements and different numbers of legs and different numbers of faces, surrounded by the 8 charnel grounds or the palaces. That's what a Yidam deity is. So we're not going to make any offerings to them. They're not the Guru. It's not the Guru, not my Lama. I'm not going to make offerings to them. Then they think of our teacher, Shakyamuni. When they think of Shakyamuni, they think of someone who's gold in color, who has the Usrishna on the top of his head. Well, they think, this is the Buddha. But he's not my Guru, so forget about him. And they don't make offerings to him either.
다들 전주스마스 수레는 전주스마디 자와창마다 제레스이다 자매야 대주 전주스마레스 제가 니조 라마레미스 양 대주 전주스마레스 제가 양 대주 봐 니조를 쳐박히고 말 라마를 쳐박히고 말 니조 쳐박히고 말 대주 봐요.
And they think, well, who are the bodhisattvas? Oh, the bodhisattvas are like Maitreya, Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, and so forth. They're bodhisattvas. They're not gurus. They're bodhisattvas, not the gurus. So forget about them. I'm not going to make them offerings. So they forget about them and only offer to the gurus.
다 대주 상마파 유자로 상계라 전주 선바다 이담답에 상마파 유자리 다 가르나도 알았잖아. 다 라마를 쳐박히시도 간에 피우도잖아. 야나 라마 세리리 지디지자 라마 차바이나 라마 세보 리지 도돈르지 우샤자바르 제드지 텐데지곰 지조르여 삼공데도스 아나 참담 라마가 보이는 레번드지 마 키댕게 아니베 저 라스니 라 창망 보통으로 봐 나바도 창망 보통인데 럽스시엔 럽스 지시에 룽바라 베 미숑야 룽바 테라 그 럽스 시에 디게 마숑니 근데 쇼딩이 지주라 곰나 라마 곰바인 대야 라마 곰나테 남도다 데니 라마문에 공고만다 남도망 모든 냠도 데니 라마 곰바인 제제들 곰데도스 다 쳐바 가르비디도스나 셈제들레 바세 진대게 샤라가 쳐박히 아니 창생이지 미창물로 배 뇨중기 뇨주야 진대게 제지 구룡한제 어나디도 쳐박히 됐도스
And so when they've forgotten about everyone else, well then who else is left for them? Who's the guru who's left for them to make offerings to? Well, if the guru is a monk, they think of the monk as being like some lump, some fat monk who's like a little lump wearing robes sitting there. And they imagine that little lump of a lama sitting above the crown of their head. Or maybe their guru is a tantric practitioner, a nakpa, a tantric practitioner who's got dreadlocks down to here, Maybe this is a really drunk practitioner. You can see like tantric practitioners always drink a lot of beer, right? So this is someone who's just so wild and outrageous in his conduct and always so drunk that he can't really fit in the valley. And so they imagine that this is like what the guru should be, and they imagine that the gurus should be like this. But when they think of the guru in this way, then this is really just actually mixing up the gurus with their own thoughts. It's like their ideas of a guru. And so when they then make an offerings to the gurus, well, what sort of offerings do they make? Well, they kill animals, then they offer the flesh and the blood, they offer beer, they offer something that will a substance that is able to intoxicate many people. And these are what they make as their offerings.
Nadi Chaba Tamji Yomba, the Lama Chaba Tambarja Sadi, Tendawan this Mares, Rubukuni Korang Gombina, Pena, Kolo Dombe, Chaba Chebekara, Lama Korang Kolo Domba. Moyer Mochibokomia Gabadozi, Chaba Chebekalia, Lama da Gabadozi, Yermochibokomia. The digital Kogotos.
But if we make offerings in this way, this is missing the point. This is misunderstanding the meaning of the quotation. Give up offerings to all the deities, make offerings to the Guru. What Drupa Kunle's understanding of this is that when you make an offering to any of the Yidam deities, for example, if you are making an offering to Chakrasamvara, then you think of the Guru as being inseparable from Chakrasamvara, and you make the offering to the Guru inseparable from Chakrasamvara. When you make an offering to Hevajra, then you make an offering to Hevajra inseparable from your Guru. That is how you should understand this.
Chazanta, Mo Yemenagom, Lamane Losu Yidam Saji, Neverche. Lamane Losu Sange Saji, Neverche. Lamane Taylor Mo Losu Ji Kasue, Taylor Mo Tatebegi, and Daji Chajusama Neverche. The Digi Mo Chixen and Rando. Number Tateva in a mochi do sheveton. The Degapon Lama di Takandraji Tadona Lamene Sadi Donaji Kansa Gerji Lama Gerbachi Juzur Gomdeves or Maimba. Tadi Sangia da Chanjusamada, that Idem Gingorian Hazo, Tamche Takandraji, Ridi Dodoru Jiswaje, Tadi. Ji Kasue Tamse and Lame Molam Dusheve Tone and Tender Vigita Cheverve Shinji Jolo Gongwa Libre.
So we see that they're inseparable in essence. There is no outside of the Guru, or separate from the Guru, there is no Buddha Shakyamuni, there is no Yidam deity, there are no bodhisattvas outside of or separate from the Guru. They are the same in essence. The form is different, but the essence is the same. And so thinking of them in this way, when we practice Guru Yoga, we are not meditating upon a particular individual being. We're not meditating on a particular individual guru. We are meditating upon all of the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, all of the gatherings of all the Yidam deities, all wrapped up into one, in the form of and they're all the same in essence as the Guru. And so this Guru we then visualize as being worthy of veneration and offerings. We visualize them above the crown of our head.
That interview more should have tell and Ning Taba Kazan Mimbi Mugu, Ning Tabane, Dongshu Tabi, so at the rest. And
when we are visualizing the Guru in this way, then we and they're present in that sort of a nature, then we need to pray to them from the depths of our heart, not just words, but fervently.
단들레지 아주 학범주산에 강모 덤지버게 20번 땜사도 개고에서 말해 간다라 담이 예매 수도 간다 땅 웃음도 배 뉴기 난가로 쇼에 삼바로 전에 도스 매와 세샤나 그래서 저기 유스래 엔디인들은 연락 준비하게 초소체 다 디젤이야 선립 라디 라메 nenjuru dedi 라메 nenjuru 코란나로라 자신이 군대 숨고 아래 자신이 군대 기베 선대 자신이 기베 선대 예든 가르치는 거를 예배 세미나 알아서 다들 그런 배세나요 알아 뉴베 세미나 선대 도지 정도만 도지 정도면 세셔나 돌디마스 라고래 도지 찬지 때로 나로스 예자 직당부터 도지 찬지 때로 나로스 라비에서 이게 돌디마스 도르스 도지 찬스 디스 딜로스 돌디마스 오마디 세님 벌트레스도 다 뒤니 거론되는 저거래
Now, it's not necessary for us to visualize, as we do in Yidam practices, that there is the Samaya being and that the wisdom beings then dissolve into them. Instead, we visualize that the Samaya and wisdom beings are inseparable and they're present in front of us. I think if we imagine this, it is fine. Then we do the 7 branches to gather the accumulation of merit, and then we supplicate. In the Guru Yoga practice, there is the long Vajradhara lineage, there's the long Mahamudra lineage prayer. We can do actually either long or short supplications, either is fine. If we do a longer supplication, then we do what is in the text. If we do a short of a public supplication, we can do a supplication such as the Vajradhara lineage prayer. The old name of the Vajradhara lineage prayer used to be called the Vajradhara Tilopa prayer because it starts great Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naro, and so forth. In any case, whichever supplication you do is fine.
다드네 라멘nenjuru boom 장소 제베이나 장소 제아디 개방함이나 응원이나 만남식으로 장소 제아로 수여버다 다 드네 치수 드네 주좀 캠베가 송 다 가라야 돼 수행들 시간 주 라마를 못셔 소한들 시간 주부디 장소 제아 로수여비면에 디니가 가르치네 가르 장소 전에 되게 와래 다다디 응원도 뒤바 랑에 축지도 세샤와 디나로야 만남식으로 샤요래 마도 디다디 주좀 캠베송 샤요 제가 디니 강강으로我就 장소 전에这个
Now, when we are counting recitations for the 100,000 Guru Yoga repetitions, then in the old days, originally, what they counted was the prayer, the 4 mothers prayer, my mothers, all beings throughout space, and so forth. In more recent times, people recite the 6-line prayer by Dusen Khenpa, I supplicate the precious Guru, and so forth. And whichever of these you do is fine. In the short preliminary practice, which I compiled, I included in that one, I included the 4 mothers prayer. I didn't include the 6-line prayer by Dusen Khenpa. In any case, you can recite, it's fine to recite either of these, recite and count either of these prayers.
아야. 다 수행들 해야 돼. 아주 들이야. 야, 델은 루버균이 순지할 때 시에는 마도 비싸마네. 뒷마시에 공리야. 알아주는 게 라마 장배 누구이 봐. 라바도 장경기 로르타에 수 라마 장배. 대 라마 장배도 하고 싶어래. 이내 라마 장배도 뉴뉴산에 대지 삼성 뭐 사용도 다 티라 민도면도 따네 야보 따나마도 아니 티르 민도나 게 중지갑 가라서나 다들 남산지 디나 측도 sama 소소로 고야를 집어지 교랑 소소를 시에대야 소소로 소소견 시에대야 소시 다다 지 소소간 소소견가 내도 포고도 시에상 대규제된 소소 대견 시에대야 소시에상 대기 질미의 산에 계시라 잡으면스 그래서 민도다 단 미시라 민도 깨잡 미시란도나 아니 저게 좋은 지겠죠.
Now, when we supplicate, there's another Drupa Kun-like story about this. But before I tell that story, usually we like to recite the calling the Guru from afar prayer. And particularly, we like to recite the calling the Guru from afar written by Jamgon Kongtrul Lodro Tai. It's a wonderful prayer, but sometimes the way we recite this prayer is actually kind of strange. It's kind of actually pretty amazing how we recite it. First, when we start to recite it, we start to look and see, is there anyone around us? Is there anyone right near us? The reason for this is that the words of this prayer, it's like we're criticizing ourselves. It brings up all these points that really strike home, that are like criticisms of ourselves. So the first thing we do is we look to see, is there anyone near us? And if there's someone near us, then we don't sing it very loud.
제가 라마 잠베 마세는 마시 두기 장가를 잡셔라. 땅아베 랭이 가사르보다 안 다는 신기다 저 방부 쉬우지다. 수수르다. 비지 가주에 메라르 스탄스 수수르 지금 수수견 장가 신 메라르 스탄스 두기 장가 잡셔라. 나도 초진에 대야고도스 가주에 이 셈리야. 수수기 꽤 병어시니 안 거라 되게 꽤도 통네 무슨 요리도 야고도
So when we recite most of the calling from gurus from afar prayers, then most of the words for these prayers are actually like complaining about ourselves, or they're criticizing ourselves. They use terms like, they're like words like saying, "Oh, I who have bad karma," and so forth. They're really talking about criticizing ourselves. Maybe from one aspect this is good because from one aspect this is definitely good because it helps us recognize our own faults and realize that they are faults.
얘는 루버군이 가르쳤으나 진상 가시지기 ene lamal soan de ba yin cheje ran ya mera shu dang do so so le mera kyang gang dang che sem le one de lamal te ba yue na me na be ji lama me suen de yin se san ne be su su la ka zi ji gi be ka shui mera ka zi dang tu na ti zu ji gi la me suen de yin sam ten de do.
But what Drupa Kunle said is that most people these days think that when we are reciting supplications for the Guru, then what we always end up doing is criticizing ourselves. Instead of really supplicating the Guru, instead what we do is we recite words that criticize ourselves.
가져와요. 소설 미안하게 갔다. 그저 가르쳐야 되잖아. 당아베 라마를 붙이 당아 투지 응아라 투지 시로나스. 나베 카카와 때네 자신민도스. 꾸 가와샤나 자기민도스. 당아라 투지 시로나스 때 경행경하 겸대데도스.
And so when we recite them, we're always saying, "Oh, poor me, Lama, look at me. I'm so unfortunate. Wherever I look, nothing works out. Wherever I breathe, the grass doesn't grow. So Lama, please help me. Please think of me. Poor me."
나디 야 라메 선데 양답에 이미 하고서 말했어. 라메 선데 비슷해 가르치랑 남과도 냐면 심지어 탐지 미국어도 죽니 미국어라 야 남과도 냐면 심지어 탐지 미국어도 죽니 내가 랑그 진짜 자외 라마티 상계 탐지 용어를 도 시베 관에 닝 타관네베 소왔다 대면도 수다 닝 타관에 소왔다 소왔다니 무구 관계 무구 지게로 봐 어다 무구 관계 봐 대기 냐 가르래 모장 대정신 저바다 차와 동분이기 차텔이야 냠바샤네 된저기 무구도 차게 전부 송든 제외 냠련시 제외이나 대라 최긴네 창 저기 내가 전부 지레서 정도 마도베 누구 장가 잡돼야 돼 내가 전부 지레서 정면 도서
So it's hard to, I don't really know whether that is a true prayer to the Guru or not. Really what we have to do is we have to take all sentient beings, or as limitless as space, we have to take them as within our focus. Then we have to think of our kind Guru as being the essence of all the Gurus and pray to the Guru from the heart. And as we pray to the Guru, the more devotion we are able to generate, we need to nurture the essence of that, see the empty nature, see that, and rest within equipoise within the nature of that. This is when we do this, we have the union of the devotion and Mahamudra. And so, if we are able to do this, then that really hits the key points of our Dharma practice. And if instead of that, if we're just wailing all the time, it really doesn't benefit us.
Oh yeah. 다 들으려 지미라 저기 아메스런데 추루디 저기 근데 샤체 다디 잘이야 와 가주에 왕그룹이 소왔다 되네 원실래야 돼 말에 다디 버지 남균 가주에 상알 서동 중요하스메 상아 탐지 야마데 레라바시부 용유빈자 디 준zel 때네 등주래야데 계속버려서 등이经过的 쇼는 완래야데 계속버려서 제가 디기 되는 세제 내려 라메고 총네 원시 접버려야데 디기 원시래베 고치를 디经过的 쇼네 이담기 经过的 쇼는 원시래베 고치를 해서 가라서 탐지 냠자 중 근데 이제 니마 딱 와르시 제 제잖아. 안고 냠바 소르추. 탐지 냠바 소르추. 근데 용거로 봐. 아 나버도 빼나. 튠시 라면은 줄 사들 민의 튠시 딱 와야 돼. 전생 알아서 튠시를 냠면 치고. 제가 저 잘 튠니 치료 잘 튠니 제제. 튠시를 냠면 치고. 근데 이 주산에 뒤년가 돼. 어제들이 차대었다. 지 가르에 튠수에 만대 공리야 그라 지 탐진냥 소르추이 자 그러지 임라
So that is how we should supplicate. Then following that, there is the section of visualizing that you take the empowerments and you receive the 4 empowerments. And the reason for doing this is that it's very easy to violate or transgress the root downfalls, the secret mantra. This is why when we do Yidam deity practices, we do the self-entry, the self-introduction into the mandala, the self-empowerment. And so when we do this, if we take the 4 empowerments in Guru Yoga, then this also is sufficient, or this serves the same function. It is the same as when we do a Yidam deity practices and we imagine that we enter the mandala and receive the empowerment there. The reason we do these practices is because it's so easy to accumulate downfalls of samaya, and taking the empowerments, imagining this as a way to restore our broken samaya. In particular, with the 4-session Guru Yogas, the reason why it's called the 4-session Guru Yoga is that it's meant to be practiced during the 4 sessions, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. That's why it is called that. And the reason why this is so important is that we need to restore any broken samaya before the end of within the duration of a session.
That's all. Kama Shingaji Tando Pasha Ine, that young Samuel Galeshu Kayusre, Chazang Etzra Tasha Niku and Sabat Sabatsi Galeshu Chesha Chazaba young Samuel Kamanga de Chansulia, never free.
There are 4 or 5 minutes left, but you all seem to be having a hard time. It's hot. You're all falling asleep. So I'm going to do a life release and give you an extra 4 or 5 minutes.